Welcome, everybody. My name is Dr. Lou Jensen, and this is the weekly gathering of the ID Network. We've been doing webinars for our database and our network for a long time, nearly 9 years. I think this is our 9th year sessions. And I was thinking this afternoon as I was finishing up, getting ready for the show, how much has changed. And we've kind of been able to grow up with it, because we didn't have this tool, we didn't have this advantage for years. And now it's just getting a little better and a little better and a little better, and we're actually learning how to use it a little more all the time. We've got a full house again tonight. Our guests are all here, all members of the ID Network, and we've been pals and friends for many years. And the goal of the Inspiration and Encouragement Network is to, number one, help you discover that you have some ability, some unique ability, to do what it takes to develop and eventually master that ability, and then learn how to share it. The sharing of it is the challenge of all small business. We just have almost a constant effort to stay in front of the marketplace. And last year, the #1 book in the business world was The Paradox of Choice, and it was a research project by a professor, and he basically said that there's so much out there that it's making it more and more difficult for human beings to make their decisions, make their choices. And so we're a part of that, but we're kind of an unusual part of that in that none of us are youngsters. We're all in the slightly older generation who are trying to figure out how to grow old and do it well, and that presents its own batch of problems. So, any given day, every one of us struggle with some serious issues that make it really hard to stay in the saddle and keep doing what you like to do rather than what you have to do. When I was leaving dentistry, I bumped into the t-shirt the guy had on that said, "Having a good time is my job," and that's been my motto all the rest of my life, ever since I left being dentist. And Chris and I were laughing, talking to a couple of guys who came over to visit with us last night and meet us and meet me, and I was telling him about the story of when that happened and how interesting that was in the change. Basically, in the course of my life, everything shifted gears as soon as that showed up. Tonight, we've got a really interesting subject. We're going to talk about confidence. And we're going to turn it into a key, a way to unlock doors and help us accomplish things that we really are now ready to accomplish, something next that we need to do. And from my own feelings, and I'm projecting that a little bit into the audience, every one of us wrestle with confidence on an ongoing basis. Sometimes we've got it, and we can be confident as hell, and then other times it doesn't take much to just sweep it right out like the water off a boat. It just comes up and hits you at the funniest time sometimes, where you lose that confidence. And it really does affect relationships. All business is trading between individuals, something for something. And a confident person does pretty well in those trading moments, and a not confident person generally doesn't do very well. So as we go through this tonight, I hope there'll be something here that'll help fire up you and give you something good to think about and to chew on, and that we can have you have a okay, let's see, where's the screen? There we go. Okay, we got the home page up?
Yeah, you got it.
Thank you, Mel.
You're welcome.
We tend to forget that happiness doesn't come as a result of getting something we don't have, but rather of recognizing and appreciating what we do have. And I kind of like this sentiment, the concept, because every person I know that I get to talk to has some degree of confidence already. You can't have lived a few years in your life and not faced the lack of confidence many times. There's just no way around that. And experience generally is what builds confidence. So as we move into this segment tonight, we're talking about climbing a mountain or continuing to climb a mountain. I picked up on Success Mountain years ago, and I like the concept because I live in the mountain country of Utah, and there's 7 great mountains around us in this valley, and so climbing a mountain is what it takes, what it requires. It's uphill, and confidence is what I think keeps you going. What started out as my story has become our story. We've got some tremendous success stories over this many years. We've been at it now 38 years. And so as you listen tonight, what we're trying to do is pull your story more up on the table and put it out in front of humanity. And we're a cooperative, helpful group that tries to keep each other going. And in managing to discover, to master, and share your own individual talent, it takes, it's just kind of a never-ending course. I compressed the words "what you ought to do" because it's often the signal that I think comes to people when you're kind of on the right track. Either it's the beginning and you've not figured out quite yet. I get a lot of interaction on the web from people that are curious. They're wondering what we're doing or who we are, and all I do is just bring them right back to what I call my passionate prescription. And tonight we need to boost our own personal confidence in the efforts to try and accomplish something. And what I'm trying to present the most is, I'm going to start with Jose tonight because we went through such a fun time with him. Most people don't pursue an individual concept near enough. We do a little and then that's enough, and then we give up or get scared or back off, or we get too busy. And I've talked a lot in the year. I present a lot, especially in January as we start the Masters series of courses about the avatar. And Jose just could not get what he liked. And so we went through a photographing series. He literally shot all these different pictures, and then we just really spent a lot of time trying to figure out, okay, which one is best for his avatar look. Almost nobody on the web pays much attention to their profile picture, except you really should. And there's quite a bit of research on what profile picture would end up being the best one or would work best for you. And what you want is an inviting, warm, personal look, and not so far away, so that you can get up close enough so that you show up nicely on the web all the time. And he just couldn't make up his mind, and so we went at it and we went at it. I teased him about this one. And we just did it, we just did it, we just did it till we got the one that he liked and the one that he uses now. So I'm going to present to you, first of all, tonight, if you're listening to my voice, please go back and take a look at your avatar. See what your image looks like. Is it attractive? Is it appealing? And is it, do you think what you've got up pulls people toward you? Because it's now your beginning of your brand. It's your front end image, and it really is important. So as we measure, just thoughtfully measure your personal confidence. At the moment, are you almost zero confidence in yourself and your abilities, or are you midway, or are you crazy good? And just kind of think in terms of what your personal measurement of your confidence might be. I've found that some things I'm confident, almost too confident, and then other things I really suffer with. And so it's a kind of a very variable a variable idea that I have to kind of constantly pay attention to and measure and look at it in a way that I think will respond. Tomorrow, Chris and I are having a rather profound meeting. We get to meet with the head of the VA for the state. This person controls the checkbook for the Veterans Administration, and so tomorrow is a really big day for Chris and I. And it's been so much fun for me to watch this kind of unfold. Chris has relationships in his life because of he has a financial planner, a guy that helps him manage his money, and this guy knows this guy and knows that guy, and I know a few people, and between all of us, we're just finding, okay, who next should we meet and who next can maybe help in this quest. And you guys are going to get to be alongside of watching something unfold this next year that is going to be really fun. Chris is going to have something profound to work with for the rest of his life, and it's just taken one little step here and one little step there, and boy, if confidence in what you're doing isn't a part of what you're trying to do, you're really going to struggle. And it takes more than just a promise. You can't just say, yep, I'm going to do it. It takes a period of time to move your life from not feeling good to feeling good. And feeling good about yourself and what you're doing, and confidence is kind of a radiation of that degree of feeling good. I really like who I am. I really like what I'm doing. I love what I trade in the marketplace. And that then becomes the picture of you. So what I wanted to do with the show tonight is start out with a whole series of ideas about confidence. And I pulled them off the web, and they're statements, most of them by fairly famous people. And there was so much here, I had to kind of just weed through it all. There's just, you cannot separate success from confidence and confidence from success. It is just so pervasive. Confidence comes naturally with success, but success comes only to those who are confident. So, we know we got this subject, but what to do with it and how do we go from there? If life is about creating ourselves, which it is, then we're only going to get out of it what we put into it. And as long as you don't sit around and wait for someone else to build that degree of confidence for you, you've really got something, okay? And I really like this one. Confidence is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. So there's a gradient here, a way of kind of saying, yeah, if I just stay on it, that should gradually improve. Every one of us do some kind of custom engraving or sandblasting or airbrushing, and try and promote that as a business concept in the marketplace. And if every one of you can remember when you started and how simple things really were. I talked with my brother yesterday or this morning, and Doug's doing a rifle for the not Civil Air Patrol. That's what I did. He's doing a gun for the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, and the gun that Deb Lindsay did last year for them sold for $9,500, and he just found out that, and it really intimidated him. So we were talking about a degree of confidence that Doug will gradually get by doing this gun, giving it to that foundation for their fundraising efforts, and then having it auction off in his neighborhood. There's some very, very heavy gun people with heavy money in that area, in that basin, in Uinta Basin. And so as he presents himself, it's the foundation, Rocky Mountain Foundation, who are promoting Doug and that gun and his work. And boy, that's a really good way to get started. It should give you more and more and more visibility. But your confidence here, right there, is going to really, really show. And this is Doug's first major effort like that. So he's got some real growing to do, some cultivating, some incubating of his own individual confidence. This is the part that most of us struggle with the most. We're so anxious and worried about what someone else is going to think about our work that it just destroys confidence. But it's between our ears that the trouble lies. It's not generally what other people really think. And this, I saw this and I just chuckled. I went, boy, if that's not the truth, our confidence is silent, but our insecurities scream at us. And I could go through a long discussion of the moments in my life when things are just absolutely plow you. When Keith Hone was first getting started, he did a little gun show, and he and Craig were together, and it was a time when we were putting a lot of acrylic on the guns after we carved them. We'd paint them a little. And this guy and his son came by, and as they walked off, he says, geez, it looks like somebody threw up on that gun. And it upset Keith. I have never seen him so unraveled because he just couldn't understand the reaction. And yet what it did was bring him back to really looking carefully at what we were doing and the direction we were headed, and back it off to allow the carving to come through more than the painting. And so it's this sometimes silent, sometimes loud category that we really have to wrestle with. There's so many people out there who'll tell you that you can't. What you've got to do is turn around and say, watch me. And that's not a clever way to put it. It's just your personal attitude about what your intentions really are. And even if you don't have the confidence to begin with, you've got to face the circumstance and practice and pour it on and work until your own productivity builds that degree of confidence inside of you. Confidence comes not from always being right, but from not fearing to be wrong. And that really is the perspective. It's like a mirror. It's just not so much fear of being right. It's that fear of being wrong. It is just one of the most problematic things in all of socialization of humanity is we get in with people, and some people who have a tremendous amount of confidence and capacity tend to just really pour over people who don't have that, and it upsets things to the point that our fear of being wrong is just so strong. It's just terrible. So the best way to gain self-confidence is to do what you're afraid of doing. Does that sound profound? Going right at the very fears that are slowing you down or making your life more challenging. I was thinking this afternoon about all of you that play on Google Plus with me a lot. And some are very timid about it, and some don't do it at all, but most of you are playing on there more and more all the time. And I think it's the way to go. I don't know how you get exposure for your business and your name and your reputation easier than constantly doing something and putting it up in front of the world. And we're getting a little better at it all the time. We're understanding it a little bit more all the time. So if you can not live down to the expectations of others and go out there and do something remarkable, that ought to be the motivation. Most of us are not kids anymore. We're down to this last wonderful period of our lives where we get to kind of do what we most want to do. And whose microphone is on? Somebody check your mics, everybody. Somebody's got their microphone on.
I think it was me.
Okay, thank you. The road to confidence is paved by daily accomplishments. And this comes clear back to the plan of the rest of your life. My Aim Your Life stuff is really significant in productivity. If you get up every morning and you haven't got a long-term goal and a project and broke it down into what are we going to get done today kind of a basis, you really don't get much done. But if you do, and you target that, and you go to sleep at night knowing what tomorrow is going to bring, and what likely this weekend is going to bring, and you've got a bit of a plan out in front of your life, I think you've got a great degree of possibility. And it really does change the course of everything. If who's not courageous enough to take risks will accomplish nothing. So the fear of the risk, I don't want to be embarrassed, I don't want to fail. And when we start into the pricing series of shows this after Christmas, and we start talking about the pricing issues, man, is it a tough thing to price. I find everything I do, I just finished another piece of crystal for the university. It's going to Kazakhstan. How the hell do you say it? Kazakhstan? Somewhere over there. Jack was laughing about it with me on the phone today. He says, "It's where?" And I couldn't. Some ambassador in Washington, D.C. And that crystal piece will end up in his life now, from now on. They're nice enough, they're elegant, and I've been doing them for years, every year for the university. And I still thought about the price again. When I delivered it Monday, I just, oh, boy, did I have a tough time. I walked in there, and Pete says, "Oh, it's just beautiful, it's just great. But, oh, my gosh, you got the wrong date on it, Lou." And I just could have died, because often I have something wrong on this piece. And I said, "Well, I took just exactly the information that you emailed me." So he pulled out the program that they've printed, and it is the most elegant program I think I've ever seen in my life. Oh my good Lord, it's just a beautiful thing and gorgeous. And then he tried to look all over it, and he couldn't find the date anywhere. And so somebody had left the date off this absolutely breathtaking program, which is not too serious, but it's a little bit of an issue. And guess who was right about the date? And so my confidence fluttered and almost fell at the moment when he said, "No, you've got it. It's not December 1st, it's December 2nd." And it turned out that I had it right, and the printer, the developer of the graphics, is the one that had it wrong. Anytime I cross paths with what Disney accomplished, I'm always motivated and always inspired. I like what he did and how he did it and how far it has reached now. When I see what Disney is capable of and the strength of the company and where it's positioned, each of my kids have all worked for Disney at one point in their young lives, and I just loved it. I loved the inspiration and the encouragement that they got as they were beginning their jobs of public work and public trading. Good Lord, Disney's good at that. And this is the image that I like the most, where in 28, this is where it kind of started, and he drew him out, and then he just gradually got to the point where he used an airbrush to to crank out Mickey Mouse now. I saw this one and I thought it was kind of fun, because the most important thing a girl wears is her confidence. And I don't think that's just a girl. I think that's all of us. We wear it, and it's there, and it's a part of our presence, or it's not. And it's kind of interesting when I'm with Jack Solomon, it's a little intimidating, especially in my early years, 30 years ago, when I started hanging out with him. It was ridiculously difficult because his financial position was way beyond mine, and I was always intimidated by that, being alongside of him. And I'm not what has happened to me. I become what I am, what I choose to become. It's a choice. It is a decision. Every time our attitude needs to be adjusted, we're the ones in our heads that have to adjust it. Chris is famous for saying that 99% of life is between your ears. And it's that choice that we each have to make. Norman Vincent Peale, he would have some fairly interesting perspective, wouldn't he? Without a humble but reasonable confidence of your own powers, you cannot be successful or happy. So it's this power thing. If you look at what this does, confidence gives you power. The ability to present yourself and your work in as good a light as you possibly can. And the way to develop that is to do the thing you fear and get a record of successful experiences behind you. Destiny is not a matter of choice. It's not a thing to be wanted for. It is a thing to be achieved. We do a lot of event marketing in this profitable hobby direction in the marketplace, and most who have a business have to do that or learn to do that. And your first shows, I remember my first event, my good Lord, I was at Park City and I went through just holy hell in the beginning of it. If everything that could go wrong went wrong, and just made it so challenging. And had the kid next to me not stepped in and saved my bacon at the moment, I would have not have done as well as I did. And there would never be anything here. The business and the network and everything moved forward because that first day I had help getting through it, and I gained a degree of successful experiences. Sometimes not so successful teach you as much as the ones that are good ones. The bad shows are also a learning process. But eventually it gives you this degree of experience behind you that allows you to manage. I remember doing a show one time, and I plugged in the plugs to put our lights up on the backdrop, and something sparked in the convention center's wiring, and it caught fire and set all of the backdrops, the fabric, on fire. And you want to talk about losing your confidence in a hurry. It was all managed really quickly, and it didn't get out of hand, but it sure could have. But oh, did that mess with my confidence at the moment. Go confidently in the direction of your dreams. We talk about this subject, and I'm as much guilty of dreaming and dreamers as there is, and I had to apologize it in my early career because I wanted so badly to get past dentistry. I wanted to move into a position in my life where I could control more of my personal time. And that dream of being able to find a way to get out of where I was, my as-is world here, and move it over to better here is what kept me. The dream of that kept me going. You can determine how confident people are by listening to what they don't say about themselves. Now, this is a little different twist. What people don't say is the part that they're least confident about. We've all learned to avoid it so that it just doesn't come up. And that, to me, is a real lesson for each of us. Figuring out what it is that we say and how we promote ourselves, so that if we apologize heading into the relationship. One of the things that, if you're listening, brother, tonight, I'm hoping you are, one of the things that Doug tends to do that I wish he would get over is pointing out the parts of the carving and the engraving that he's not so pleased with. Yeah, I didn't do it. Yeah, it's great, but I didn't do very good right here or here. And early people playing with us, we all tend to do that. And it's just a really serious mistake in marketing, because you don't have, the average person is not going to see nor know what you did or didn't do right. It's just huge. It's a very, very significant issue. Whatever you can do or dream of, you can begin it with boldness and genius. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. This is a Goth quote. To walk around with an ego is a bad thing, but to have confidence in yourself is a great thing. Nothing builds self-esteem like accomplishment. Now, herein lies the catch-22. It's like you can't get a job without a history, and you can't get a history without a job. So how do you do that? What can you do to get past that and pull off a degree of accomplishment? And it's coming back at it and coming back at it until you have accomplished something. That tends to make all the difference in the world. I don't know if Brian's listening tonight, but Brian and I had a long talk, Brian Beatty, one of our masters, yesterday, and he's bumped into Ken Wolf, and he was talking, someone told him that how many pieces a year you needed to do as sculpting if you're going to be a sculptor. And I think it's like 60 pieces a year to build up enough of a repertoire and an image of accomplishment that you have something to then have as a show. And when Brian talked to Jeff, Jeff said that he does sometimes as much as 85 pieces a year. And when you watch Jeff work now, and especially if you've ever taken a class from him and see he's so capable. Oh my God, can he bang things out? He dreams it up, and I guarantee you he can crank it out in clay like you've never seen. And that's where that power of self-esteem and confidence begins to come from, because you've done enough of it, it's just not an issue anymore. You just literally take the exit. I was so tickled when I found this on the slide. I went, I love getting off the fast lane and getting over here on the side of your life, take the exit to where you're more productive. And confidence is a huge, huge factor in doing that. If you want to achieve great things in life, you must not, what is that last word? Oh, you must first, I can't even read it, with belief in yourself. That one's serious.
Start.
Let's first start with belief in yourself. Okay, now it makes sense. Yeah, first start. His handwriting is about as bad as mine. Happiness and confidence are the prettiest things you can wear. That comes from an interesting young lady. Optimism is the faith that leads to achievement. Nothing can be done without hope and confidence. And look who that's by. Whenever I bump into this, it's just a good experience. It's really fun to hang out with people who have hope in the future of themselves and the future of the world, and a degree of confidence about what they're doing. People call me crazy, but I prefer the term mentally hilarious. That was new. I have never seen this before, and I went, ooh, I like that one. Inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. And if you want to conquer fear, do not sit home and think about it. Go out and get busy. So there's a pattern. Something to follow here. This is a little list of how to be more confident. Stop comparing. Stay focused on you. Relax and go with the flow, and don't stress the little things. Love yourself. You're a gift. Nothing would be the same in the world if you didn't exist. Be positive and look for the good in every situation. Do what you love. Life is too short to waste your time doing anything otherwise. That's a very unusual slant on confidence, but it's worthy of paying attention to. What he's basically saying is stop comparing yourself. That's where it starts. It doesn't matter what anyone else does, thinks, or how they look, or what they do, or anything. It should not stop you from trying. Then relax and give it a go. Just go with the flow. Love yourself more. Be positive and look for the good. And do what you love. Kind of a good list. Inhale confidence. Exhale doubt. Now, as we look at the tips for gaining self-confidence, I want to kind of put in here what I think is the most important slide of the night. They talked about 5 things, and I added a couple more. Going the extra mile, to me, is where all of life works better. If you try a little and give up, you're never going to get anything much significant accomplished. You're just not. You've got to go the extra mile. And everyone always says that extra mile is kind of fun because no one else is there. Not many will do the extra mile, make the extra effort. But if you'll, number one, target what you love doing, this has to be a passionate prescription. I don't know how you do this when you go at things that you don't have the heart for. Then it's work. 2, stay away from negativity. And if there's anything that I've seen that destroys confidence quickly, it's the negative circumstance, the negative moment. You just can't allow that to happen. And it's kind of hard sometimes to control your individual circumstances so that you are in a better position and that you can accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. The third one is the one where you can really do something, and it talks about changing your body language. When's the last time you changed how you do your hair? If you've worn your hair cut the way you have for years, maybe a change in hairstyle would actually improve things. Do you think? I think those kinds of things, body language is huge in confidence factor. It radiates that you do certain movements, and if you don't understand body language, then go on to YouTube and find some stuff that talks about body language, because the odds are your body language is screaming louder than your words and really does interfere with the confidence factor. Get rid of the voices in your head. Boy, if this is the one right here. This is the one in here. If your voice is screaming, I can't do it, I can't do it. I'm just me, I'm just ordinary me, I'm just normal. Man, those voices in your head can hold you back. Keep you from taking the next few steps of whatever you have in your career or in your battle plan. If the voices talk you out of it, then you won't make the moves this year that you need to make in order to move your career along a little bit more. The very last one was to get prepared. And this one I talk about in my 7 steps of the opportunity intersection. Getting prepared and gathering what you need before you launch your effort is huge with confidence. You know you've got everything ready, and now it's time to push the button and go to work. The next thing I want you to think about is this last list of your life. The first thing I do in January every year is that one tough test, and I wanted to bring it up again because I'm doing it in my own life right now. Is that if the doctor told you you only had a month to live, and you could take one day in that 30 days, one day, and just do exactly what you most wanted to do with that day before you died, how would that day be? I call it one perfect day. And I stumbled onto the idea a long time ago, and so every now and again, especially when things get a little heavy, get a little difficult, I go back to one perfect day. What would Lou do in one day from beginning to end? And then the idea is to make that one day and 7 days begin to be one whole week out of 4 weeks. Could you pull most of your everyday activity into an entire week? And then out of a year, could you pull it into an entire month? And then what if you knew you only had 1 year left? What would you do with that year? What most needs to be accomplished? Most would you prefer to work on? Most would you love to promote and put into the marketplace? And if you make this last list of your life thing, this is a really, really valuable tool. People who are stuck in their as-is ordinary world over here don't do this kind of thing. They don't ever bother to get this boiled down to where they have something serious to look at. And once you've got that, then hanging in there is all it requires from then on. To persist with the dream that motivates your life. Something really worth living for. And then when you get used to yesterday, along will come today. I remember the moment I ran into this at the store. I chuckled to myself because I was having an interesting day that day. I'm so convinced that Google and Google Plus, they changed the Google format yesterday and they're just rolling it out now. Most of you got a notice today when you lit up Google Plus that they've changed everything, and I don't know even yet. I've seen what everybody's talking about on the stream, but it's so interesting that they're modifying things, and I get kind of pleased with the fact that so many people, human beings, we just hate change. We just do not like to adjust diddly squat. We want everybody else and everything else to change, but not us. But I can guarantee you Google is still trying to figure out how to compete better with Facebook, and so they're coming in the direction that all the social platforms are peaking. They're going in a direction where human beings actually can utilize it. And so whatever you're doing in your own individual life, I hope you're playing here more and more and more, because it's going to be the future. I think it's now going to be the most valuable thing in the world will be this mechanism of exposure. And I personally believe that Google Plus is in the strongest position for that. When you realize that you can mix like-minded, new ideas and thoughts, the people that bother to post something up every day are generally, not always, but generally pretty thoughtful people, very creative people. And every now and again you'll see something that just really stops your head and your heart and say, holy cow, I like that. And this position in the marketplace and the economy of a like-minded database, I've been wrestling and playing with this concept and idea for years as soon as I discovered it, of having an overall database of interaction with the customers who really like what it is that you do. And as you grow that like-minded database, then opportunities just spread and spread and spread. And this exposure thing is what's the hardest of all, everything in business. And a capacity and a familiarity with Google Plus and how to work with it is really what you ought to be doing. It's important to never forget my 50-50 rule in business. Half the people will like you and half the people will not. And I don't know how many of you saw yesterday, but I got in a battle between these two dentists. They're both dentists that I watch and pay attention to on Google Plus, and they got in kind of an argument yesterday pretty quickly, and I tried to get in the middle of it and tone it down a little bit and give them a chance to kind of work through that whole issue. And I thought we had it all worked out, and then it just went south really quickly. And so it's kind of alienated two people by 1, 2, 3 posts and blew everything out of the water. And it's interesting to watch that happen with people who you don't have to please everybody. This concept here of understanding that all you're after is the half who like what you like. That's all that you got to pay attention to. That Woody Searle taught me that, and it just changed how I did business completely. There's something absolutely powerful and something incredible when we like the same things. And what's happening is Google's analytics and their computers and their following of what people do is so good. It's so pervasive. They know us better than we know ourselves, and they put like-minded people together. That's what's going on here. And there's never been a marketing and business tool like that ever. I remember distinctly when I first bumped into David Amerland and intuitive perspective, intuitive optimization of everything is now what's happening. It went from SEO to intuitive. And when you begin to understand what's really going on here, It's the most pervasive tool in business and marketing that I've ever seen. And if you participate with it and play with it, every time you're on, you learn something new. There's an art to it. And as you begin to try and say, well, this is who I am, and this is what I want to drive into the marketplace and the economy, I want to continue to drive my name and reputation up and up and up. Craig Hone has been asked by the Mormon Church to do a series of frames, elegant frames for mirrors for the temples worldwide. And he's just finishing the Paris temple project right now, and then he's going to be doing the Japanese temple next. And these are big projects, just really rewarding to work on. And I kind of suspect that he might be really busy doing this kind of a thing for the rest of his life now. And to bump into those kinds of circumstances, those opportunities, you cannot pull them off without confidence. And I remember I've watched Jose as carefully as anyone. He's been as good a student as I've had, of going through from his very beginning stages where his work was so-so, and he just got better and he got better and he got better at it, and his confidence came along with it. And now he has that same characteristic, that degree of humbleness, but the confidence just exudes. When you spot something in the internet that's talking about this positioning of our profiles and all our information, they have these studies where they kind of can track how people look at a post. And you can see that this top left corner is what people see the most. A little bit right here in that headline, and then a little bit more here, interest level. But this pattern of habit means whatever's over here is not nearly as important right here. See? And so they study it. They don't just go with whatever. They really do bother to say, all right, if I was going to put an avatar up, what one should I use the most? There's a rating service. You can literally go onto a site that will help. The site will measure the appeal for one particular image of you over another. And I think that's so important, to put yourself, don't be afraid to go in and say, God, maybe it would help my presence on Google Plus if I worked on my profile a little bit. I think instead of how someone else does it and comparing yourself to others is this confidence destroyer. But what you should be saying to yourself is, well, hell, if Lou can do it, anybody can do it. If someone else can do it and you can see that they're on the web making it working out, then so should you. When there's a challenging task, and I first saw this image, I just went crazy. Obviously, for the carving is just amazing. But how dramatic the photograph is to me. The highlighting of the hair and down the front and the flowers, the vase, in front of this backdrop is just, and you can see how the backdrop's just out of focus too. What a great image. And so I've plunked it into my journal. It's a part of my working, thinking, daily interactions, and I look at what I'm most challenged with, what I most want to accomplish. And my big nemesis, I think, is the same as yours. I'm just way more deficient with it. I try to do too much. I just can't resist taking on way more than I can do. And so to back up and do a good job of what I am doing is really the focus now. Jack calls me nearly every day because we're going to get this collection placed at the university and get that whole thing done in his life. And he knows where Lou Jensen is softest in his skills. And so trying to say, well, I'm going to take the challenge. I'm going to go in the path where most people don't go. It's one of the really great advantages. There's nobody going to compete here with you. And then put more in. Make yourself a promise that from here forward you're going to do a little bit more of what you think most next needs to be done. Because unless you do, you don't get enough out. I'm pushing creativity. I want to kind of nudge that along now. The new platforms on Google Plus are communities and collections. They're going to grow that. I was a little worried they would kill the community side, but they're not. And I just went through all my communities last night, and it's so interesting to see which ones are actually growing, because I've got quite a few, and that I produced myself, but also the ones that I follow. And if you can see how some communities have 10, 15, 20, 30,000, 600,000 people that are a part of that community, oh my good Lord. Developing the visibility that's just massive numbers. The future of what's going on here is a little hard to even be reasonable with. I have never seen a tool that has the chance for business that this one has now. Really is opportunity intersection. And what we're going to do is get off the freeway of life and take the road less traveled. Shouldn't even have to say anything. Is this not the coolest picture? So, after the show tonight, take a little time, a little more time, and try and make note of your 3 biggest challenges. Right now in your career, what are the 3 things that you really maybe need to concentrate and think about? And then make a battle plan. What do I need to do to up my individual confidence? I've made an entire life out of nothing. There isn't anything here. It's just an eggshell, folks. And all I did was stumble onto the initial idea and was attracted to it dramatically. There's nothing I love doing more than sitting down and carving another piece of artwork. And that means anything that hits your brain is possible of turning it into an enterprise. One step at a time, one post at a time, one relationship time. The wheels of business are turn on the wheels of friendship. Luck is quite predictable. If you want more luck, take more chances, be more active, and show up more often. Remember from last week how cool it was to find it with 7 stars in it? And I'm looking for the perfect 7-pointed star, Nick. That really hit home last week. That was super fun. Success is 10% inspiration and 90% perspiration. If you spent time with Keith Holm at some point, you would hear this for sure, because this is what he believes deeply. And I think it is how things really actually work. So, what you ought to do next is those 3 things. What 3 things are in the way? What 3 mountains should you take on now that are the next part of the process of going in the direction of your life that you'd most like to go? Pick out the 7 steps and kind of decide where you are on these 7 steps. And then let me know. If there's any way I can help you, I'd like to be able to do that. What I'm doing in my own efforts is to try and gather this circle of masters, the people that are recognized for extraordinary talent, and then promote each other from now on. And I think it's a really worthy circle to participate with. These are really, really good people. So if you're there, if you're just starting, if you're on your way, or if you're there, make note of where you are and then try and move that a little bit further along. All right? We're going after the marketplace together. So, how does everybody feel about their personal confidence? Stop the screen sharing. They've got a new button. Oh, okay. There we go. There we go.
Mine's fine. Why?
Is yours fine?
Yeah.
I was thinking about you, Bill.
Lou, you don't want to follow me. You'll get scared.
If you had a little bit of confidence builder this year,
Yeah, just a little bit.
little bit. And as you take it on again next year, look what has happened. That degree of accomplishment. Is that not fun?
Yeah, and next year's project is going to be a little bit more elaborate
Sure.
than this
Why
year.
not? Yeah, why not? Why not just roll it on out and shove it up a notch? There's Valencia. You found your way in tonight, Jose. Atta boy. Good to see you, dude.
Yeah.
Jose, did you, I was speaking to you in particular for a little while. I hope you were picking up on that, because,
Oh yeah, I was.
I mean, there's not a one of us here that doesn't have something to do with this, something that we shouldn't be involved with to a degree. Not a one of us. Every one of us. There's individual days where my confidence just collapses again. And to wrestle with your personal feelings about what you're doing or what you want to do or what you're going to try and do, God, it's a big issue. Just such an important issue. You got something in your life you're working on now, Jose, that's a big deal?
Well, one of the things right now I'm getting my confidence tested a lot because on this little town right here, I got the skills, but I gotta build everything from the beginning. And
Start over. Yeah, relationships.
Start right over. And the only thing is that it's not a big town, so there's not that much demand of doing the personal engraving on the wine bottles like we did back in Phoenix.
Yeah.
But I know there's a reason why I'm here, and I figure, well, if that's not going into that direction, I gotta fall back on the other things that I know. And I'm doing a couple of the little gun shows here, and oh my God, they're worse than the ones that they do over there in the little towns like in Mesa or Casa Grande. It's nothing. But I met one of the guys that works for Ducks Unlimited, and he invited me I met him 2 weeks ago, and they're having a banquet tomorrow. So I made a bottle of wine and engrave it so I can give it to them as a thank you. And he invited me to come over after I finish. Hey, by the way, I got a perfume engraving event tomorrow at Dillard's.
Ah, bingo.
Yeah. and after I'm done with that, I'm going to be dropping by the banquet and introduce myself. And I'm going to be taking one of the buttstocks that I just finished with the pheasant and show it around and start meeting some of those guys from Ducks Unlimited. So hopefully, start working it on that angle now.
You know the process, don't you? You know what has to be. And it's not so. You remember when you were first doing shows with me, getting up and talking to people and knowing what to say and how to approach it was the whole thing. You have to learn that.
Yeah. And one of the things that you mentioned in there that, one of the first shows that you did that rattled your confidence, I remember doing, the few shows with you and doing some after that by myself, but I do not remember ever having any doubt, because to me, I have made up my mind. This is what I have to do, and there was no turning back.
Yeah.
But it's exceptional, the things that we've been doing now, and it's really neat, so I'll have some more time that I can do more wood carving over here.
Oh, good. Well, that'll make the winter good for you, won't it?
Yeah.
That's what's wonderful about our little career and our little business. Boy, now is a good time of the year to get down and get dirty.
Yeah.
Really go after some things.
So, Russ, you got a clean market over there, so go for it, man.
Yeah, really good. Lance had a picture up that he posted of you're doing the engraving session right now in the stores. Have you done that before, Lance?
No, and that was that's where I was attacking something I didn't have a lot of confidence in because I'd never done that, and I didn't mind giving it a shot, and it worked out real well. Thank you very much, Jose, for the lead. Appreciate that. Oh, by the way, you know, the change in the hairstyle, I'm going to try and part my hair on a different side, see if it makes a difference.
Yes, I think you should.
So,
Lance. I think you ought to.
you never know.
Swing
A
it
new
left.
look might be everything.
Swing it left instead of right.
No, one thing that did happen just recently, though, is, you know, I did a fundraiser for the Safari Club International, and I just figured, well, if I'm going to do it to be right, you might as well become a member. So I just joined the club at the same time. Now they want me on the executive committee, so I'm got a lot more connections through the Safari Club International statewide. So we'll see what happens there with a few more fundraisers and things that way. I think that's interesting. Has some growth potential, maybe even some publishing potential.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. And as you see these opportunities show up, and you begin to pull one or two of them into your life, I mean, for me to do this piece of crystal for the university, I make an awful lot of money when I do these individual pieces. I charge a little more for them, and for the time it takes me to do them, it's phenomenal numbers. And yet I've done it so much that I'm not intimidated by it anymore. It just was a delight to sit down and do the graphics and get the pattern made and put it on, and then the next day I had to wrestle a little bit to get things set up so I could actually blast it. And you begin to realize that if you're playing with something that you lose your confidence on, boy, things get nasty in a hurry. It gets so troublesome, and it makes it really hard to actually pull business off if you lose your confidence. So it's a big deal, and I think it's like a sharp burr. If you've done enough carving and engraving, you know when you've got bad burrs. You just
Yeah.
Don't you? You just go, gosh, damn, I know better to have a better burr. And so I learned on early to charge for a brand new burr every damn time I fire that drill up. I got the money there to be able to get me some new burrs and play with a sharper tool. And I guess that's true for everything we do. If the saw's not very sharp, you're going to really struggle. Yep. So keep the confidence saw sharpened. The key working. Anybody else got anything else you want to throw into this?
I got a 10-week-old puppy for you.
Oh, jeez.
Okay. All right.
You're going to have a whole damn kennel here full of them.
Well, you recall the wife rescued those 5 pups.
Yeah.
10 weeks ago.
Okay.
Bottle fed all of them, and they each weigh about 13 pounds.
At 10 weeks. Oh boy, that's
so
a big dog.
Healthy and well.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And they're a we think they're a oh crap, border shepherd mix or border collie mix.
Oh.
We don't know what the mix is.
To find a home for it.
Oh, they're all cute as hell.
Yeah.
You just say border collie mix, people will want them.
When they're puppies, they're always cute. It's when they grow up that I get struggling with it. I'm just going, if they'd all stay little kids, I could manage them, but they start
like my 100-pound hound.
100-pound hound. Mm-hmm.
Exactly the opposite. I'd rather get rid of the first 2 years of a puppy's life when they're a nightmare. Just to go right to the 2-year-olds and on when they're fun.
The baby stage is a hassle, isn't it? That's for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. They've already chewed up part of the wife's carpet.
Yeah.
She wasn't too happy about that.
Too happy about
Well,
that.
she hated the carpet anyway,
Kinda
so
expected
going to
it.
get replaced. But
That's an absolutely. All right, gang. Appreciate it. We got to get to bed early tonight. We got a great day tomorrow. This could be good news for all of us. We just got to crack that damn VA checkbook somehow and get our hand in the middle of all the machinery and see if we can't help a few of these veterans who need something. And I told Tam yesterday, I bet you there's 10 million people in this world who, if they just knew about us, would go crazy
well,
about
Lou, with the
something.
veterans,
So,
it's a great way to build a business, but it's also great therapy.
well, that's what we're going to sell. We're not selling the business side. We're just
the art therapy portion of it.
Yeah, there's something so helpful in when you're really struggling. I'd rather sit down and carve and engrave than I would breathe some days. It just is such an advantage.
Well, it gets some of these guys' brains rewired.
Yeah, out of the trash can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that we can make something work here. So appreciate all your contributions. Good to be with you tonight. Thank you. Make note of something. There was something in this hour that you noticed that you maybe ought to pursue a little more. Go write it on your bathroom mirror with a Sharpie and then go after it. Okay? Catch you next week. Thank you much, everybody.
Good night.